Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Retrospectives. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
Yes, he is.
How are you today, Matt?
Oh, I'm just fucking fantastic.
Awesome. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, this is the best of all possible days in all possible worlds.
I agree.
All right, let me back. All right, this is probably going to be our worst episode.
No, there's good stuff here.
We'll see, but let me see if I can exorcise these demons real quick.
Okay.
And then we can fucking move forward. So, like, on Saturday, I fucking fell down the stairs at my house.
Wow.
Very much injured myself. Didn't break anything, but like my whole body hurt, and I'm still like, if I extend my arm, it still really hurts. So that was one thing. I'm dog sitting for this fucking guy. That's been going great. I just found out what I thought was going to be like a 2-month thing has been cut short. So that's great. And then today I go to believe it or not, Diego, I've been dealing with depression lately.
You don't say.
Can't imagine why anyone would be dealing with such things these days. So I go to this fucking doctor, because they tried me on some medication. I didn't think it was working. I haven't felt any change. So there was like some follow-up to that. And talked about that for about 5 minutes. And then he was like, hey, you're way overweight. And I was like, what? Because here's something, Diego. Because of my illness, I've been deathly thin for like 5 years. I've been deathly underweight for a long time. I put on 15 pounds. Now I'm suddenly in the obese category. Well, at least according to this guy. So I'm all confused. And we end up talking about this instead of the fucking depression the whole time. And then, like, I'm just confused because I'm like, I shot up. I put on 20. I shot up from 160 to 180. I didn't think I put on that much, and I didn't see how that could just suddenly go from underweight to overweight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was very confused, and I'm in a bad mood because we didn't deal with the thing that I thought we were going to deal with. And we're all every doctor's visit now is like a fucking like stress obstacle course. Because of COVID, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because like everywhere you go, it's like you gotta wear like 17 things. And so I'm all confused. I'm like, how did this happen? And I look it up. I realize my doctor has my wrong height. For some reason,
oh no,
my height was off by like 4 inches for him. So he thought I was much shorter. So that would mean I was technically quote unquote obese. But really, I'm just overweight. Which even then, I don't know. I was very confused.
Mm.
And it put me. It was like the first thing that happened today. And then other things happened. It put me in a bit of a funk. You know, like when that one thing can happen and then it just keeps spilling over into other things?
Oh, boy, am I familiar with that.
Yeah, so that's been today.
Well, this is a riveting start to our Avatar retrospective episode.
There's no fucking relevance to this whatsoever, other than I watched all these episodes like immediately after we recorded the last one. And the other one I actually watched even earlier than that because I accidentally watched one ahead last time. And the majority of these episodes have completely left my head in the time being. I wouldn't say completely. But they did not leave a strong impression this time.
Okay.
Save maybe one.
And I think I know which one you're talking about. Although I'd say there are 2 really great episodes and 3 episodes that are kind of fine. Not even, I wouldn't say bad. There's a moment that's like bad, like the bad moment of the series, which we'll just get into. Yeah, this is the Avatar Legend of the Last Retrospective, going over every Avatar series leading up to nothing.
We didn't do that, did we?
No. I didn't do that in the beginning. So I'm
We
doing it
didn't
now. So
All right.
yeah, there we go. Now we're back, and today we're talking about the Great Divide, the Storm, the Blue Spirit, the Fortune Teller, and Bato of the Water Tribe. So if you're new here, you're just popping in. Sorry about this weird introduction, but we just got to get that out of the way.
I'm in a fucking mood.
Yeah,
I'm looking for a fight to pick with Diego.
No, that's not going to happen today.
That's really what it's all about. I'm looking for a fight to pick because in a very healthy way, I take out my aggression on other people. That's not true.
Yeah, don't do that. But if you're listening to this for the first time, welcome, hello, thank you. And how we go over this series and the episodes we discuss in this podcast is that we presume that you've just seen them as well. So don't expect like too much of a plot breakdown. We're just going to kind of go over what works, what doesn't, how this all feeds into like the larger Avatar narrative, and why I still consider this to be the best animated series, and why Matt is dealing with his life problems outside of the series. That's pretty much what happens every week.
Yeah.
That's not a change. But first up, Chapter 11, The Great Divide, is notorious for being like the least favorite episode of the entire series, including from Legend of Korra. I think this is the ultimate dud. But I also don't think it's as bad as people say it is. Do you remember anything that happened in it, though, Matt?
I do remember this one, because this did not upset me. And, in fact, you mentioned this on the last episode, and that very much confused me. And I think there's an episode in these 5 I would consider worse than this episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but I'm with you. It's fine.
Yeah.
There's some interesting like class stuff that's kind of brought into conflict. Like a lot of the Earth Kingdom elements in this series are the best examples of when the series kind of deals with like class hierarchy and like how that's like awful for people's like sanity and like health. This one is very, I think, a little reductive in that regard, where it's like, oh, the poorer people are stinky meat eaters, and the rich people are classy, but they're also still assholes, and like everyone's just an asshole to each other. There's weird history between the two cultures that Aang tries to give some insight into, and Katara and Sokka try to get involved, and everyone's trying to sort everything out. There's a fun little Earth Kingdom guide that's guiding them through the Great Divide, which is basically their Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah.
And there's some fun monster action. I like the monsters in this a lot. The weird little spider crawler thingies. And it doesn't amount to much because ultimately the point at the end of this episode is that Aang lies to convince these people that they need to work together as they head to the refugee like center at Ba Sing Se, and that's a happy ending. But then it's like, oh, Aang, like you're so wacky, lying to people like that, and it's like I'm not even against that. It just feels like a weird epilogue to an episode that didn't really earn that.
Yeah, it's
so I don't know.
Well, it's strange because we get these two classes that they're at each other's. Although it's weird where it doesn't seem like. I think where this falls apart is it doesn't seem to be about class. It's just about two neighboring tribes, really. So it's not like they both live in the same, town, and then one is like the poorer class and one is the richer class. Because the poor people don't seem to be upset about where their place is in life,
Mm-hmm.
They just don't like the other guys. And maybe this episode's secretly brilliant.
No.
Because Aang is like, he lies to them, and then it's like, of course he did, because what they were angry about was fucking stupid. Like that was the right move. Because like their whole stupid thing about the story, a feud that happened over 100 years ago or something. It doesn't make any sense, and it's stupid. And so Aang's just like, fuck it, I'll lie, and then they'll stop being angry at each other, and because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not against that. I just feel that like it ends up making the episode feel superfluous, you know? So like, I guess if that had happened earlier, maybe that would have worked, and then they do like the big finale fight with the canyon crawlers and stuff and have to work together. But I don't know, maybe just some brief restructuring there, but it's not like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It's just like a fine episode that has some interesting stuff going for it. I don't know. I think people need to have a little more nuance when talking about stuff that doesn't work in this series, because it's definitely, you know, it pops up once in a while, for sure.
It almost feels like a parody of a Last Airbender episode, or like like the idea of what this show would be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this type of plot, I think the problem is this is the plot of this episode you could put in pretty much any other cartoon that was going on at the time.
Yeah, I guess you could. That's the thing. It doesn't feel as sincere as the other episodes, I guess. But there's like, I don't know, there's still good stuff in here. This Maybe was directed by Giancarlo Volpe and written by John O'Brien. And John O'Brien also wrote the waterbending scroll, which I thought was a lot of fun for an episode. So I don't know. It's funky, but it's not like some bastard child of an episode or anything.
Yeah, I don't see why everyone was so angry about it.
Yeah, I mean that is also kind of all we have to say about the episode.
Well, the other thing I could say is that the guide who was supposed to bring him down there, is voiced by the guy who played Sam Beauregard in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And the head of the rich, the snooty clan was voiced by Odo from Deep Space Nine.
Oh yeah. Everyone should watch Deep Space Nine because it has characters like Odo.
Yeah,
Deep Space Nine is actually really fucking fantastic. So
remember
please,
when, Star Trek would they'd be like, well, we did the show about exploring space. Maybe we should try a different type of show.
Yeah,
and it was like a different location, different setting, and like a different vibe. And it was like, oh, we can do like 2 shows simultaneously that feel very different, but are still Star Trek.
Yep.
And now there's like a cartoon Star Trek.
It's a Rick and Morty style Star Trek, which I'm not a big Rick and Morty guy, but I don't like hate that idea.
I don't either.
I just can't imagine a show sustaining itself like that.
Yeah, that feels like something you could be like 5 episodes and you're out. Like. I'm sure it'll be fun, but again, I don't know. That's very confusing to me. That is where Star Trek is at these days.
I know they're announcing like a new show every month, and I'm not trying to be like. I definitely don't want to come across as someone who's like, that's not my Star Trek. Star Trek Picard. Ugh. Like I don't like the stuff I've seen from the new CBS All Access shows. But I also don't want to shoot any of it down. I just wish I liked it more.
Yeah,
is all. That's my thing.
There's nothing in them that I'm like, this is egregious. I just don't think it's... But again, I always say give Star Trek 3 seasons. And I think the 3rd season of Discovery's coming up. And that's when a show should be like getting the vibe right.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I know the ending of season 2. And I think that's a great pitch for a new Star Trek series, and that's all I'll say.
Okay.
But I am intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what comes of that.
We'll fuck it up, though.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Is that guy still doing it?
Alex Kurtzman?
Yeah, is he still there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, then there's no hope. Okay. Alex Kurtzman's never had a creative thought in his life.
No.
He's never had a good idea.
Oh my god, before we get back to Avatar, now I have to hash this out with you. No, because the first 2 seasons of Alias are like genuinely great, like low budget action thriller like writing. He's got goods, but he cannot guide a ship is the problem.
Yeah, but there's no way that the goods of that were from the fact that he was just starting out and that there was probably some very strong producers on that show. And whenever he would pitch something stupid, they were willing to say, that's stupid.
Who knows? Because I think he was also around for season 3. Which, if you've seen Alias Season 3, is not a high watermark.
So, to me, that's like, it was like they kept him on a tight leash. They kept all those writers, and then the third season, they were like, all right, go at it. And then they fucked it all up.
That's kind of exactly what happened.
I mean, that's kind of the JJ thing, his whole, like, group.
Yeah. But following up it's not even like divisive. Just I know most people just don't like The Great Divide, and it's fine. I wouldn't even tell anyone to skip it. I'd just be like, yeah, if you don't like it, just power through. It's not that bad.
This feels like it has its reputation from the Tumblr era.
Totally,
because you remember like when the Tumblr era would be like, I don't mind that episode, and then someone would be like, actually, and then they'd have like a 7-paragraph explanation about why that episode's like actually the worst and secretly endorses like war crimes or something like that.
Yep.
Like that was the Tumblr thing back in the day.
Yeah, and now that's like totally bled over to Twitter, and it's just like worse but shorter.
Yeah, but thankfully Twitter keeps it short, and I think it doesn't rise to the surface as much on Twitter, at least in my experience.
Yesterday, like literally the day before recording this episode, someone was tweeting about how Andrei Tarkovsky said that women don't have like their own individual minds or something like that, and it was like a fake quote. And then Anna Biller like retweeted it or something like that, and then like an hour later got called out for sharing the fake quote, and she's like, "Well, I had it presented to me factually, so I didn't know that it was fake."
Who's Anna Biller again?
She did the Love Witch, which I really like, but is apparently like awful.
She's been very she's very online.
Yeah,
which is a shame because the Love Witch is a great movie.
Yeah,
I'm a little. I'll maybe just watch her stuff and then never read anything she says.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that's the way to go with a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah. Although if they're a crime committer, maybe let us know.
Oh, yeah.
People out there with the information. Because that's been an issue.
That's more important.
That's been an issue lately.
But
I was just thinking about, like, back in the day, like, you could post something, like, on Tumblr, you'd be like, oh, I love Uncle Iroh. And then there would be, like, a response was like, Iroh's actually a war criminal. And it's, like, this whole thing. And, like, at some point we kind of lost the thread on, like, Uncle Iroh's not real. He didn't really commit war crimes. He's a fictional character. We could talk about the text of the work, of course, but like there's a whole like problem with redemption arcs in general in art. But Uncle Iroh's not real. None of these people are real. None of the events of this actually happened. And like that was the thing where Tumblr lost it, where it was just like they started treating things that happened as real almost.
And I think that unfortunately bled over into like how a lot of people like perceive actual like political events and stuff like that. Because do you remember when Mitt Romney did like a surprise guest appearance at like some luchador thing? And then, like, everyone was like, whoa, Mitt Romney redemption arc? And I was like, what? That doesn't change anything. He's, like, he's still Mitt Romney, you know?
Well, it's like how the narrative used to be back in the day that Biden was, like, the loose cannon VP to, like, cool Obama. And now it's like, what the fuck happened? Like,
yeah, it's like, oh, no, he's just old and conservative.
Yeah. Do you think the hate for him will keep up if he wins?
I think it will from people that actually pay attention, and then people that have like been supporting him are like, well, like, who do you want instead, Trump? And it's like, No, but, like, you should be able to criticize someone who's clearly not going to do a good job still, just because they're not, like, a straight-up genocidal maniac, you know?
I just think there's, like, an economy... Like, I don't know what the right word is, but, like, there's something to what breaks through to, like, the mainstream. Like, basically, like, blue checkmark Twitter, where it's, like, hate them or hate them a lot. You kind of need the blue checkmarks to... like raise up certain voices, and specifically you need blue check marks that like cross over where they're like they have 1 foot in the political bubble, 1 foot in some other bubble, so the news can like spread outwards. And I don't see those people that have like 1 foot in one side doing that, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like once that target of Trump is taken away, I'm interested to see. I mean, I'm not interested. I'm nervous. I'm nervous as shit about how we proceed. My hope is that because we didn't pick someone like Warren, or because we didn't pick someone even like Bernie, that Biden will like kind of be like a non-figure in his own administration.
That wouldn't be the worst case scenario, but even then, it's just like I'm not very optimistic anymore.
Yeah, same. That might be my bigger problem these days than anything else.
Not being optimistic?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a downer note.
Things are incredibly bad.
Yeah.
And
they're not good.
It feels weird talking about a cartoon show, frankly.
Yep.
Especially when maybe you watched episodes when combined they were a little more mediocre than the previous two.
I like the Jet episode a lot, and I like the waterbending scroll a lot. I'm not crazy about the Great Divide. I am, however, a big fan of these next two, the Storm and the Blue Spirit. Now, the Storm, generally, because I like looking back at like the critical like reactions at the time when it was airing and like where they are now and stuff like that, right? Like I think that's really interesting how art can kind of evolve. But generally, this is still the episode that people are really drawn to as like where the show finds its identity. Like, everyone kind of walks away going like, this is what the show is. It's just the story between the Avatar and the Fire Prince. I mean, there's more going on than that, but along with Katara, those two obviously drive a lot of the story choices and stuff like that. And still rank among fan favorite episodes, critical best episodes of the series, like on those ranked lists that are sometimes like full of shit that just drives me nuts. But I like seeing these two up there because I also think these are fantastic episodes. But I'm getting the feeling that you might not feel that way.
I really like the Storm episode, Chapter 12. That's one where we kind of... You're right. I think that's like where the series like writes itself and where it's like, this is the direction we're heading. These are the two conflicts that are going to come to a head at some point. And it's also the first... I believe it's the first time we hear the voice of the Fire Lord voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Which is nuts. And we basically, you know, you find out the story of how Zuko got scarred, which is a big deal.
Yeah, and it's super, super fucked up, and they do not shy away from it being super, super fucked up.
Mm-hmm. It is. No, I mean, it's like more nuts watching it now, frankly.
Yeah, like it didn't register with me when it first aired that like, oh yeah, like that's like bad. Yeah, that's the bad guy, of course. But like knowing where it all ends up to, just knowing like how Zuko's journey becomes later, or like what it forms into later, and how this episode kind of makes him much more empathetic than he was before. Even though, like, you know, they show a lot of conflict in the character by having him go up against, like, Commander Zhao and shit like that. Mm-hmm. It's more touching and, like, deeply sad now. Like, it registers very differently with me now. You know? And just, like, shows that his father is kind of the ultimate piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, he really is just like an all-timer evil in fiction, and a good reminder that sometimes fiction and reality, in terms of like monstrous people, that's all they are. Sometimes there's not like a deeper understanding that needs to be had about them. Sometimes people just got to go down.
Yeah, the Fire Lord, not to spoil things for people who don't know, but we don't really get a ton with him in terms of deep complexities going on there. He's kind of just a piece of shit. But we do get a look at like the inner workings of like the Fire Nation culture, where there's like this like might makes right mentality and honor and dishonor and shit like that. Which is also, I mean, I mentioned the kind of the parallels with Imperial Japan, which as imperialism rose in Japan, they kind of started embracing like this, like what I believe was like fictionalized or like heavily reworked ideas of like the old samurai code of honor, and that became like a mentality that kind of drove the Japanese military for a long time.
Yeah, and I'd go as far to saying it's still like more of a universal kind of cautionary tale too, because that like whole idea of like nationalism and just like blindly being loyal to a country or any set of like ideals is like very dangerous, and the show is very wisely critical of that kind of thing.
Well, it's important to note that Zuko, I believe Zuko speaks up when he's not supposed to over a plan that will sacrifice a lot of soldiers in order to win, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's important to note, because it's like with the whole like idea behind the military there is that these lives are worth sacrificing for the greater good. And them not being sacrificed is actually the dishonorable thing.
Yeah, and Zuko speaking up about that and literally having it like beaten out of him, you know, like that's how he gets his scar. That's the big moment his father challenges him. Although Zuko thinks he's challenging someone else to an Agni Kai, right? And but that action,
and he won't fight back, is the other thing.
The fact that Zuko's like early feelings of empathy for his fellow like nationsmen, it needs to get like singed out of him through like fire is just so deeply sad to me. And so like it so perfectly sets up like his conflict of doing what's right versus wanting to preserve this ideal of a nation that doesn't even want him around.
Yeah, well, it's like literally his father burning his mentality into him. Like he would have been a different person had those events not happened. And that's really where the tragic stuff. And then he's hunting to be this like ideal that it's his father's ideal. It's not his. And that's a difficult thing. I mean, that can be you can take that and apply that. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just petering out in terms of like trying to connect it to bigger thoughts today.
No, that's all right. I mean, sometimes this show does like kind of the heavy lifting for you. Like, I think that's one of the many reasons it's so brilliant is that the stories, even though they're drawn from like obviously a lot of like Asian culture and stuff like that, the messages are constantly universal. And, you know, like a lot of the messages are like, oh yeah, coming together is like nice and stuff. And like, that's how we're going to like win at the end of the day. And that's ultimately like a big part of the show. That's the bigger message. But then sometimes it hits you with stuff like this. And like, yeah, you can get to that light at the end of the tunnel eventually. But right now it is important to acknowledge that bad shit can happen to people. And that it's always going to be difficult to process, and I think that's also an important message to kind of.
It's also it zones in on what makes something like Star Wars also work, where like Star Wars is really about like generational conflict a lot of the time. I mean, it's literally about growing up to fight your father and then realizing that your father is just a sad old man in like a robot body. Which is
hashtag relatable.
Yeah, I mean, there's ideas going on there.
Yeah,
you know, Where
there's truth in it.
Yeah. You grow up with like an idea of, I mean, not just like fathers, but like any parent or authority figure. You grow up with an idea of them, and then you're confronted with the reality of them, but then you understand what's going on underneath them. And that's, developing basic empathy as an adult. And it's just this weird thing where, like, it's why it's become this weird thing where people mock the idea that Star Wars is quote unquote about family, but that is really kind of what it's always been about. And that's what this show is about in a way. And I think this is why this works, where other things that have tried to become major franchises don't, like, they can't figure that out. At least when they have to make the leap to, like, the next story in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would say that's one of the things that held the Harry Potter universe back when it tried to become about another character.
You don't like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
Believe it or not, I don't.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, that thing where it's like, you could easily make that show about how the mistakes in the previous generation led to what happens in the next, right?
Yeah.
Seems like a very obvious, like the ball on the tee, it's like right there. Seems like a very obvious thing to go for. But it almost feels like, other than names and events, it feels like those two franchises exist in completely different universes that are totally separate from one another.
And say what you will about the Star Wars prequels, but that's also exactly what they set out to do, you know? Like, you don't have to like them, but that's definitely part of the reason they exist.
Yeah.
To do that very thing.
Exactly.
Know?
Which is something that I think it took a long time for people to come to terms with, that's what those movies were about.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, because it's, living through those coming out, it's definitely, I understand why that would be difficult to see. But when you kind of get, like, the whole picture of those three, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Whereas when you take, like, each individual film, you're like, what the fuck? But
like, I definitely like them a lot more now. And it took me a while to get to this place, and I don't know. I think people need to be more willing to engage with, like, the harsher stuff in fiction, because, like, not to make everything about Star Wars when we have these conversations, but fuck it at this point.
Star Wars is just the only other comparable franchise like, that has this kind of structure, and also has sequels that start, like, questioning what happened previously, and also had a very similar fan reaction.
Yep. And I think there's a real, like, tragedy through all the Star Wars. Like, they're known as, like, these great family adventure films, which they also are, like pew-pew lasers and awesome sword fights, and there's a bunch of great, cool shit in there. But it's also, like, kind of sad, because in none of the 9 central franchise films are they ever allowed to just have an adventure. Like, it's always feeding into some greater conflict. It's always feeding into some, like, something that's just around the corner that's going to ruin them for the rest of their lives. Or, like, like Phantom Menace is maybe the most standalone apart from New Hope, but it's also, like, this is the beginning of kind of the end of an entire republic. Like, that's kind of a heavy thing to deal with, and maybe, I don't know, I've just been thinking about that a lot lately. I can't imagine why, but I also just think that's, like, a really brilliant storytelling device, where it's like the great fantasy adventure doesn't really exist anymore because it can't really exist anymore, And again, not to say that the adventure is not in those journeys, but you can't just have it without, like, eating your vegetables on the side,
Well, the hero's journey in general is, like, generally a tragic story. Because it's about going through a journey, and then when you come back around, you can't, like, you fundamentally changed at the end of the journey. And usually that change in a lot, especially in, like, a lot of Western fiction, that change means you can't be a part of the world you used to belong to, the world you set out to save often. I mean, that's like the Lord of the Rings. Star Wars doesn't lean into that a ton in the originals, but there's, like, elements of it there. And I also, again, I think that's why Harry Potter is like kind of a failure in a lot of ways.
Aww.
I mean, well, look, as someone who likes those books, or I should say liked, it's going to be a little hard to like them going forward.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a complicated issue because J.K. Rowling is a fucking turf asshole.
Yeah, like, we've talked about this, but, like, she's, like, full mask off at this point, so it's, like, really awful. But,
yeah.
Like, even ignoring that, one thing that's always been is that, like, Harry Potter doesn't really go on a journey in those stories, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like he comes out at the end fundamentally different than he was at the beginning. Other than, like physically where he ended up.
I would need to sit down and, like, rewatch and reread, because it has been years at this point, because we've all kind of been, like, J.K. Rowling was kind of teeing up, like, the mask off moment, you know, at this point for a couple years, and so, I don't know, we'll probably never do a Harry Potter retrospective at this point.
We talked about it a few times.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably best not to highlight it now, but...
No, I'm just saying, like, there was a point where we were like, that would be interesting to talk about, because it is a very important franchise, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and then it would have been something where, I just think it's hysterical where it's like, had we done it, I would have been much more apologetic towards a lot of problems with it. Like, you know, this doesn't totally work, but it's still fun. Whereas now I think, like, if I sat down to revisit any of it, it would be like, nope, fuck it. Like, not worth it. What other franchises succeed or fail at the hero's journey?
There's the big one that I don't want to talk about because it takes up too much, like, space and energy at this point.
Just throw it out there.
I would say the first Avengers, Captain America's first Avengers movie kind of has the hero's journey, especially with the idea that, you know, he sets out to save the world and then he can't go back to the world he set out to save. Like, he literally can't, you know? That's how his story begins. He time travels, basically. But to eventually fix that.
Let's take, like, the MCU as a whole. Does it work or fail at it?
No, it fails miserably. Right. As a whole, but there are moments for sure, but, like, you know, it's... the weight of its whole existence ends up sinking everything. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, which I adore with all my heart, and I have actually been meaning to rewatch because I haven't in a while, just because I've been so, like, marveled out. But I started thinking very fondly about them again. I was like, I should revisit those because I can't make it through those without crying at this point. So, you know. But yeah, no.
So why do you think something like the MCU hasn't really experienced a backlash to it in the way that something like Star Wars or something like Legend of Korra did?
I think, honestly, because Captain Marvel got backlash, and you and I were like, no, that one was pretty good. But I think it's been very male-centric. Uh-huh. And I honest to God believe that this has been a factor no one's really talked about a lot. You know, unless you're like a women film critic, because they seem to have their eye on the ball a lot of the time when it comes to these. Mm-hmm. It's been something that's been called out, but, like, you know, the fans have always been like, well, you know, they have to set up the story, or they have to do this first before you get, like, a woman-led superhero movie, and then, like, that's just, like, that's not real. These aren't real people, so it doesn't matter what you do with them. But that was often the excuse. And I think because it's been so male-centric for so long, that the generally male audience, although a lot of women go to see these films too, I think they take up like 30 or 40% of the audience. They pulled it. It's crazy. Like, it's a very, like, female-friendly franchise for a lot of male starring roles.
Wasn't the crazy thing that happened was, like, Disney explicitly bought Marvel because they're like, we only appeal as a brand, we only appeal to girls mostly. We need something to appeal to young men. Like, that was the whole idea behind it, because they tried with, like, Tron, and they tried that Prince of Persia movie. Like, there's, like, that weird run where they were trying to make, like, action movies for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, fuck it, let's just buy Marvel. But then, like, the thing that ended up coming out was that, like, women enjoyed the Marvel movies just as much as men did.
Yeah.
Which I isn't really shocking when you think about it.
No, I mean, people forget, like, the phase one of Marvel movies, I think, are kind of like the black sheep of the franchise, and I think when it was most interesting. But, like, there's a lot of, like, I mean, for compared to now, there's a lot of, like, sexiness in those movies. Like, the men are often, like, with their shirts off. You know, Captain America has the glory shot of his own movie when he comes out, like, shirtless and sweaty and, like, ripped. Thor has a bunch of scenes where he's just, like, cut as fuck. You know, Tony Stark is having sex like left and right in his movies.
He had strippers on his plane in the first movie, which is interesting to see on Disney Plus these days.
Yeah, the first Iron Man is basically a movie about a dude who can't keep it in his pants.
Yeah.
So, like, and then they kind of just, like, washed over that later.
You really might be onto something with that there's a sexuality component to it.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's a weird thing of I guess young men. I'm hoping young men.
I'm willing to bet some people in their 40s and 50s also.
That's incredibly sad. That are just terrified of sex, or a character expressing any sort. Because that is something that completely fell away. You are right, from the MCU, and I wouldn't even say that's to be explicitly sex, but a big thing that people pushed against in The Last Jedi was like the romance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird where they don't really explicitly talk about it, but there's like, I guess it's I guess it's that coded feminine thing that like women care about romance and stories, you know, like that men don't like rom-coms and stuff like that, which is whatever. But I think there's like there's like a weird kind of anti-women thing going on like under the surface there, where I think even the people parroting a lot of that stuff wouldn't say they're anti-women. And then there are, of course, bad actors who are knowingly kind of exploiting it. But, yeah, I think there's a weird thing of, like, wanting to keep these things pure. And sex is the ultimate, that's the ultimate journey. And I don't mean, like, the act of sex, but, like, the idea of, like, procreation. It introduces death into what could be like a holistic universe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what these people really want. And that's where it gets weirder, too, where these people seem to worship death and hate sex.
You know, that's so weird, because, like, the end of Infinity War is when everyone gets snapped away, right? Half the universe dies or whatever, right? And then, even though we all knew they'd come back, a lot of the hardcore fans would often, like, parrot the same idea that, like, oh, that's why this is the best ending, because everyone died. And it's like, well, why is that the best? Like, what does that mean for the story? And I actually think it's a very effective scene. I don't care for the movie, but, like, it's a very effective scene, right? It's cool that happened in a way. But it's also like, okay, but, like, why? Just question why you like this. Why is this so important? Why is, like, killing people off for you? Why does that create stakes? Because people can't just die, you know?
And why is it that, like, whenever a popular character dies in a comic book, it's always like an event, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that it's like, oh, because it brings in, like, people who aren't necessarily comic book readers, but I don't think that's true most of the time. I think those sort of stories clearly appeal to the base, the big fans of comic books. Yeah, I just, especially, this is interesting when you especially consider how much romance plays a part in both Last Airbender and Legend of Korra.
And I would say, I don't know if this is controversial, but, like, actually works like 99% of the time.
Yeah, there's one, like, huge fuck up. But they quickly self-correct that one, in my opinion. Unless there's something else I'm not remembering. Yeah,
there could be, like, another thing where it's just like, oh, shit, no, this ruins the show, but I doubt that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to that one eventually, but for right now, to bring it back to...
You know why that one doesn't work? Because it's not about the romance, it's about male competition.
That's interesting.
which is what I think that's a storyline that men are attracted to as opposed to women in general. And I'm general in big quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are, of course, people that... I mean, this is like... I've been watching, like, all this French New Wave bullshit. And, and like, there's, like, so many of these plots where it's, like, guys, like, they competing for women and stuff like that. It's so strange that, like, those guys were considered radical, and it's, like, all the same bullshit Hollywood did. They just edit it differently.
Yeah, I think there's value in like people like Jean-Luc Godard and stuff like that, but no one's like unimpeachable, you know. Yeah. Like it just they had a little bit of a different approach once in a while, and that's important to remember. If anything, that's what people should take away from the French New Wave. Now, you want to get really wild, if you want to see the French New Wave's cousin on acid, check out the Czechoslovakian New Wave.
Oh yeah,
because there's some shit in there. It's Vera Chitalova's film Daisies changed my life. I saw it in high school. I never looked back. It changed movies for me forever.
That one will do it.
Yeah.
That one will do it. There's a couple like that. I mean, I know this is like we've gone like insanely off topic here, but I think it all kind of relates in a way.
Yeah, because Avatar also, like, I swear, this isn't even like a radical notion. Avatar, on a pretty regular basis with flashbacks or like just presentation, changes up its format, you know? Mm. Like even in The Great Divide, this is not like praised enough. We didn't even talk about it because the episode's kind of just fine. But like with the flashbacks or interpretations of the event that caused the two clans to basically feud for 100 years, it is presented in like these different art forms, right? And then Aang's lie is made up like a children's fable.
Yeah.
So, like, even in an episode like that, they're still playing with the medium to help present it in a certain capacity, which is really cool.
And it's also like they're kind of doing a Rashomon thing there. A little bit.
Oh,
not like as, explicit, but...
Yeah, it's just not exactly Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah, it's not on the level of Rashomon. But...
Yeah, no.
Which I think that's a film I think more average people should see, because the whole thing about that fucking movie is that like all versions are entirely plausible, and you just kind of have to sit with that ambiguity, and that's the thing I think people struggle with is ambiguity.
Totally. And my god, yeah.
And maybe that's why The Great Divide divides people so much. Because there's a lot of ambiguity to everyone's actions in it.
Because people are complicated.
Yeah. I don't know.
Would you say
is
The Great Divide the original Kurosawa mode?
Oh, God.
I just wanted to toss that joke out at some point in my life. There, I've done it.
Jesus Christ.
I don't actually expect an answer to that. I just wanted to make that joke.
Well, Kurosawa famously never directed a color film, so... So what Diego was talking about before we got sidetracked yet again...
Yeah, what the fuck?
Is that we get the flashback with Aang. We basically see Aang's refusal of the call, where he's dubbed, "You're the Avatar." Also, we're pretty sure there's going to be a war. Probably because the Fire Nation is preparing for war. So you're going to have to deal with this. And it's basically Aang is like fearful he's not going to be allowed to be a child. And it's actually a really fucked up lesson, but an important one, where it's like you have to let go of your childhood at some point. And it is being thrust upon Aang early. And that's certainly, not great, but that happens to a lot of us. Usually the moment where we cross that threshold from childhood to adulthood, or like young adulthood, I guess I should say, we did not make that choice. That choice is usually made for us by outside circumstances. And it's so hard for Aang to deal with that he literally flees. And he's been living with that guilt.
And even before that happens, it's just sad to see that he can't be a normal kid with other kids. Even before like they announced that the Fire Nation is like they have to get Aang ready like now. Like they tell Aang that he's the Avatar, but they don't tell him like we gotta go until later, and that's when he decides to leave, right? But like when he showed the other airbending nomad kids that like the ball of air trick, and they're all doing it and like, oh, we could play games together now and stuff. And then he's like, yeah, I want to play again. And they're like, oh, but you're the Avatar, you'll win. Like, you can't play with us. And it's like, even that, like, that stuff, like, gradually builds in this little, like, 10-minute segment of an episode. It's really impressive, and also just, like, this is a deeply sad episode, is what I'm getting at.
Yes, it's very sad. Also, the knowledge that all those children were later murdered.
Yeah, I remember your text to me at 7 o'clock at night.
I was thinking about it.
7 that was 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah, I know.
I was thinking about that at that time.
And I was watching a Godard film.
But no, the Storm's a terrific episode, and it's nice to see just that little old man and his wife also kind of tag along for this little journey. Like, emotionally, they're not there all the time, but, you know, the old dude blames Aang for leaving. And it's like, yeah, Aang did leave, but another one of the situations where it really goes to show that, like, you don't know what someone's going through in life sometimes. And that doesn't absolve people of mistakes they make, but people are complicated.
Okay.
And sometimes there's no easy answer.
This is a deeper episode, but I kind of have to ask about what the Fire Nation's plan was. Because later in a few episodes, there's in the next episode actually, Aang is captured, and they're like, "Well, look, we can't kill the Avatar because you'll just come back, so we're just gonna torture you forever," which is fucked up. But they just killed all the Airbenders. What was that plan?
I don't know. Well, I think the plan was just like mass genocide at one point, because they do also continuously like ravage the Southern Water Tribe, right?
Yeah.
Into basically not being like a society anymore. Now they're just like a couple little villages. Like they completely like eradicate like the cultural footprint they had on the earth, which is like really devastating in hindsight.
Well, it's also this weird thing of like the Airbenders were the only group without like an actual like nation. It seems like.
Yeah, because you know, air nomads. Haha.
Yeah. Name. But I'm just saying, like it's actually kind of like sinister under the surface, because that's kind of a thing that keeps happening in history. Where the group we can commit genocide against tends to be a group that are like we consider nomadic in a way. Just throwing that one out there.
you could say it. We all know.
I mean, it's just you know.
Hashtag Free Palestine. Anyways.
Well, it's also like that thing of like they always say, if you want to gauge where the world's at, pay attention to what's happening to the Romani people, who have like historically been persecuted. And I'll just say, pay attention to what's happening to the Romani people.
Yeah, it's heavy shit.
This is a show built on a genocide.
Yep,
it's the title.
This it's different now.
This was on Nickelodeon between episodes of SpongeBob and The Fairly Odd Parents. Dun 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 dun.
Oh, but Chapter 13, The Blue Spirit.
All right, here's something I hate to admit at this point, because we've been having a great conversation. So I watched these. I had seen The Great Divide. I watched these episodes in like 2 episode chunks, so I'd watch 2 and then another 2. And I watched The Storm, which I was like, oh wow, this still like really holds up. Watched Blue Spirit. Realized later, for some reason, did not stick in my head. I was like, I remembered like pieces, but like I didn't remember like what happened in general. And then you texted me today being like, hey, I need an extra half hour before we record. And I was like, great. So I put the Blue Spirit episode on. And again, I don't know why.
Oh.
And I don't even think like the episode's bad. It was just like this weird thing of like this one just didn't like do anything for me.
Oh no, I love this episode.
And it's got this great setup of like the titular blue spirit thing is like really interesting, but the rest of it like just goes right by me.
Well, first it starts off as like a really light episode because it's like, oh, in the storm, Sokka got sick, and now he's like all in a fever dream state and stuff like that. And so Sokka's hilarious. Katara gets sick really quickly. Aang has to take care of them. Then he goes to find like this little like hermit lady with this really funny cat. Also, is that a normal cat? Because there are very rarely any normal animals in this show. I guess you don't remember because you don't remember that episode.
Cats popping up a lot because a cat pops up later in the last episode we'll be discussing today.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have no idea. You know what I think?
Okay, so that's the same cat. That's the same cat.
Oh yes, of course. I totally again like that's it. This episode fucking went right by me. I remembered the lady with the cat in the later one. Like I remembered. I think it was. I don't like the setup of the episode.
Oh.
I think that's where it loses me.
Okay.
And not necessarily because it's like, oh, they're sick. I do kind of like not like that in general. That's like a frustrating thing, but that he goes to this woman and then there's like this weird like run around with her being like eccentric.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really like fun. It's like just kind of frustrating. It's kind of like, I mean, this is, I really, trust me when I am not trying to insult these scenes, but it's a little bit like the Ents in The Two Towers.
Oh.
Where I love the Ents, but they cut a lot of the Ent stuff from the book for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, the Ents are just kind of like really boring. And that's the joke. And that it's frustrating to deal with such boring people. And it's that... Frustrating is very hard to make interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It often just translates to frustration for the audience.
I think I'm kinder on it in this episode because it definitely is frustrating because thankfully that's not what the majority of the episode ends up being about. It's kind of just like a stepping stone.
Also, this is a less than 30-minute episode of a children's cartoon. So.
That too, yeah. And not a 3-hour Hollywood epic that changed film.
Yeah. Where you gotta spend, where like, there's like these two big battles happening and it's like, let's see what the trees are up to.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I love those movies, but Two Towers, like the pacing of Two Towers is like, holy shit.
Yeah, I love all of them as well. Like 5 stars across the board, but maybe like a little dimmer 5 stars on Two Towers.
Yeah.
Because especially compared to Fellowship, which is like perfectly paced.
Yeah, Fellowship's like a perfect movie. Like that's the best one easily. And then Two Towers is the worst one. And I'm not saying it's like awful. It's just like it's weird. There's like a big drop.
Yeah, it starts and goes. It's touch and go in terms of pacing. I really love all three like pretty equally, but Fellowship is also my favorite. Anyways, to go back to Avatar then. What I really like is that we're constantly seeing now Admiral Zhao rising through the ranks, like basically just because he knows who to rub shoulders with. And he kind of gets this elite like archer team to hunt the Avatar, and it's a really fun contrast with Zuko, who just like cannot catch a break to save his own life.
Is he the Grand Moff Tarkin of the first season?
Admiral Zhao?
Yeah.
I would say so, yeah. That's pretty pretty close.
If Tarkin and Vader hated each other.
Yeah. Because there's a mutual respect between those two. Mm-hmm. Which is a really interesting thread that no one talks about in that film, because Darth Vader, like, kills everyone else.
Let's talk about how Irvin Kershner ruined the character of Darth Vader.
No.
Because in the first movie, he's just like this, he's like a robot lanky man. But in the second one, what? He's suddenly this super important character? What's that about?
It's almost like they made it up as they went along.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't think people are ready for that conversation.
Irvin Kershner, you fuck.
Irvin Kershner ruined Star Wars.
Anyways, you know what? It's literally like you could totally do Irvin Kershner and Gary Kurtz destroyed George Lucas's original vision, which is exactly what people fucking say about Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy.
I know. It's so depressing.
It's so fucking comical, and the only reason it sticks around is because the fucking horrible algorithms that rule all our lives perpetuate that sort of stuff.
I know.
We're being killed by memes.
I like this episode. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really. Turns out Zuko was the blue spirit.
Yeah, but I think you know why I like this episode. The action is really inventive in it.
Action is very good.
It almost becomes like a Samurai Jack episode where like there's basically almost no dialogue in the back half of this episode. And it's a lot of fun to watch, and then it hits you at the end with like Aang telling Zuko that, like he had a friend from the Fire Nation like before all this happened, and that like he wonders if they would have been friends in another life too. And then Zuko responds by trying to capture him again, right? And then it's like, oh, it's like really sad, and Aang can see the possible connection there. Zuko still can't.
Yeah. And
so when Aang returns to finally help Katara and Sokka with a bunch of frozen lake frogs, which is really funny and gross, Sokka's still delirious. Is like, oh, did you make any new friends? And it's like, it's a funny joke from him, but then, then it hits you with like the tragedy that like, no, I don't think I did. And I don't know. I really like this episode a lot. It probably wouldn't make my top 10, but I think this is one of the better ones. I'm actually shocked that it left your memory so efficiently.
From Zuko's position, the Jedi are evil.
That's kind of what he is too. Huh?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. That episode, I think I was just in a weird headspace both times I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But the next episode, I hate.
Okay, I figured.
I hated the fortune teller episode.
Oh, so this is your great divide.
Yeah, this is the one where I was like, I would cut this episode in its entirety.
I'm not crazy about it either. I like it about as much as the Great Divide. There's some fun, like, jokes in it. But for a show that's been generally pretty good about like gender politics and like giving characters narratives that aren't like precipitated by like what boys and girls might like, this is an episode that does feel like that.
Does the little girl call Katara a tramp at the end of the episode or something?
She calls her a floozy as they're flying away.
Yeah.
Which, okay, look, that made me laugh, but it's not a good note to end the episode on. It made me laugh because it caught me off guard, because I always forget that's how the episode ends. Just like, oh, wow. But like The Great Divide, it's also a little meaner than the show usually is because of stuff like that.
It's good to note that this episode was co-written by the head writer.
Oh, no! Oh, no! It's all coming back!
I know, hey.
This explains so much.
This might actually be the one that like explains it.
Mm-hmm. Directed by Dave Filoni, though.
Yep. He didn't really have a lot to do here. I guess the volcano sequence.
Yeah, the volcano stuff is cool. Stopping the volcano from destroying the town is a lot of fun. I like the imagery, like when Aang's standing atop, like the defeated volcano, which is just great, but like...
I just hate the, like, fortune teller storyline, which is a storyline that, again, it feels like it could be, like, this, like how I was joking earlier about this being between SpongeBob and, and Fairly Odd Parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is an episode that feels like it could be in any other show, kind of like The Great Divide a little bit.
Yeah. I like the idea of the message, not the way they execute it, but I like the idea of it where it's like, oh, like, like you reshaped the clouds to save the town, right? By like relaying a message to me, basically, like all of us can shape our own destiny. that's just a great story for fantasy.
I have
but
no
like,
idea what was happening.
There.
I just got to the end of it and I was like, wait, that was what this was about? Like...
Yeah, no, that's the thing. The steps the episode takes to get to that ending don't match the point of the story entirely.
It's kind of like how in like the last 10 minutes of Happy Feet, it's suddenly like, hey, we should stop fishing.
Yeah, it's exactly like Happy Feet.
Like, the Happy Feet goes from being like an adventure about a dancing penguin to like, it goes to the fucking UN. That's a hell of a fucking leap.
So you hated the fortune teller.
I hated this episode.
Okay.
This is easily the worst episode I've seen so far.
I'm not crazy about it, mostly for the Katara stuff too.
Yeah.
It feels very reductive for a character that is really not like she doesn't fit into the role the episode puts her in. Almost,
it almost feels like it was written by someone who maybe has weird opinions on women.
I can't imagine why you'd think that.
It's kind of crazy. There must have been something more going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Because like someone had to have like fought to get a lot of the shit in this that's in this.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the head writer was too fucking dense to see it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mess of an episode for sure. But honestly, I wouldn't consider it any less of a mess than Great Divide. Just I don't particularly care for either of these two episodes. I like when people fight volcanoes though. That's always good.
So we got one more episode.
Oh yeah, Bato of the Water Tribe. This one's nice. This one's good.
This was a good episode.
Yeah. The easy conflict to build off of, because at this point Aang, Sokka, and Katara have been together for so long that now like there's this idea of like maybe codependence being kind of a thing, and like it's hard to blame Aang for that because they're all he has now, but it's also like they all have their own lives and wants and needs and like a goal to achieve together, and so it's an episode that's kind of like how hard and difficult it is to bind those separate conflicts and like individual identities together at times, because Sokka and Katara just want to see their dad again at the end of the day too, and it's not fair that they haven't been able to, and it's at the end of the episode we see that even though it's not fair that they still can't, they have their own journey to take for now, and that'll have to wait, unfortunately. So very nice episode. And also someone on Twitter called June the baddie of ATLA's fandom. I don't agree with calling a cartoon character that. It's a little weird, but I thought it was very funny.
What did they say?
They said June was the baddie of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The baddie? Like, she's hot.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that term.
Yeah, baddie.
That was, you were just, I was like, what are you saying to me? I'm like, yeah, she was a villain in this episode. I was like, all right. What are we building towards here?
She's a fun villain though.
Yeah, she's fun. She's cool. There's a little bit of something we don't see too much, which is Uncle Iroh being like a creepy old man.
Yeah, no. Let me check the writer of this episode again. Is it the same dude? No, different.
Yeah, it's
because we never see this side of Iroh again. When he like flirts with women after this, they're all modestly his same age group, and it's like reciprocated in funny ways. Spoiler alert, I guess, if you're just watching these episodes to keep up with us. The big spoiler of Iroh's flirtatious love life. But no, it is a little creepy old man-y here. Like,
and she comes back at some point, right?
Say that again?
She comes back at some point, right?
Yeah, she does. And I won't say when, because it's a fun surprise. When
I remember
like...
there's something towards the end. I don't totally remember. There was there's a part where like a bunch of old characters come back. I'm guessing it's probably the final or something, but I really don't remember. It's been a little while.
Okay, yeah. I'm
also,
definitely keeping in the air.
She's voiced by Jennifer Hale.
Commander Shepard.
Yeah, who will always be Commander Shepard for me. So like I just heard Commander Shepard when
Nice.
I heard her talking. Which is maybe why I didn't do the baddie thing or whatever. I've honestly never heard that term.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Other than saying a person is a baddie in terms that they are a bad person.
That sounds like a Mark Kermode thing. I've been listening to a lot of the Kermode cast. When he explains, like, film villains, he calls them the baddies.
Yeah, I guess.
So it's just a weird cross point in my brain right now between June from Avatar: The Last Airbender, horny Twitter users, and Mark Kermode talking about classic film.
So let me break this down. Because like it's one of those things where it's like, is it really that simple, or am I missing something?
It's probably just that simple.
So it's a combination of the word bad and hottie.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Why? What are you doing?
I didn't come up with it.
I'm confused.
Okay, well,
I don't know. She was a cool character. I liked her. She was a bounty hunter character. The thing she wrote freaked me out though.
It's kind of creepy, huh?
It's very creepy, and it like paralyzes people when it stings them. I don't like that at all.
Reminds me of my night terrors.
A little bit, yeah.
I like the physical conflicts that come with that too. Like, it's always fun to watch these characters kind of like have to reapproach like a conflict from a different like perspective and stuff like that. So that was a lot of fun to see them like hanging out in like a perfume parlor basically and be like, oh, it's tracks through smell, so we'll like blind it by covering it with perfume and stuff like that, and we'll be able to see anything. And that was cool. I like that. That was stuff. Cool. Yeah. I do like that she plants seeds for like the ultimate, or continues planting seeds for like the ultimate fan shipping between Zuko and Katara.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, are you tracking down your girlfriend? And you could just hear like the fanboys and girls like just screaming as that happened.
That was a ship I had like no idea about, and now like in retrospect it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I'm not like pro or anti it. I just like that it's got this fun fandom. Mostly fun. There's always parts of fandoms that are just awful, but whatever.
I know. I think most of them are just they hide in their secret places online these days.
Waiting to strike again.
I guess, it's like, I think that the problem that Tumblr had, which is that, like, by design, I don't know how, all this fandom stuff used to just be on fan, like, message boards, and Tumblr somehow made, like, all message boards just, like, come together. It was like if there was just one big message board and every fandom was on it, and that ended up being a problem at some point.
There was definitely problems there, and I wouldn't even say that they've been solved by now. I just think less people use it because of how like butchered it's been in the last like couple years. But there was kind of an excitement about all these fandoms together in a way.
And also to bring it back around a little bit, I think Tumblr has become like a bit of a target. Tumblr as like a website that is totally not above criticism. Mm-hmm. And was a nightmare site in a lot of ways. But it has also kind of become shorthand for, like, kind of dunking on, like, especially, like, women, like, young girls, you know? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like dunking on boy bands or Twilight. It's like we hate the idea of young girls enjoying anything. And that was a website that I think kind of was a safer place for younger girls at a certain point.
I agree.
I have this real problem these days where, like, there's, like, this, like, cringe culture or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Where it's like, oh, check out this cringy thing. And it's, like, always, like, just dunking on people for being, like, really earnest.
Yeah, like, oh my god, this morning alone I saw, like, someone quote tweeting, like, oh, this video of this dude wants me to stay, like, 6 feet apart from him at line, like, at the pharmacy. And it's like, really? That's what you're trying to dunk on? Right now? Of all times in human history? That's what you're trying to attack. Okay. Like, some people are just assholes.
We're living in a very fucked up time.
Yeah, it's exhausting, and I'm tired all the time. But Bato of the Water Tribe made me happy.
We didn't say who Bato was.
Oh yeah, Bato of the Water Tribe, the titular Bato, is one of the commanders in Sokka and Katara's father's fleet of watership tribe people, and
Water
they're
Tribe
going around
ship people.
Yeah, they're going around fighting, like, basically guerrilla warfare against the Fire Nation, because that's all they can really muster at that point. And they're helping out, like, Earth Kingdom places once in a while. And so Bato was injured in battle, and he has been staying and healing at this little, like, coven area until he can go regroup with their father and the other troops. Cool character. Not a lot to him, but, like, he's all you need, you know?
It's a nice little episode.
Yeah. Not a lot to it either besides that. It's mostly about Aang's conflict. And then Katara and Sokka have the resolution at the end, where they realize right now their focus needs to be with Aang, as not just as a found family, but also because their father's fighting battles, but they're trying to win the war. You know.
Yeah, and Aang lied to them great. At that scene.
Yeah, and they're rightfully upset with him because it's like, yeah, that was fucked up.
Hey, at least he owned up to it.
No, totally.
That was a lot better.
I like when characters make mistakes like that.
Yep, but like so many other shows would do that thing where like it would accidentally be revealed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he would trip and drop it or something.
Yeah.
Like, what's this? How dare you? Like, yeah. Thankfully that they didn't do that here.
Yeah, it's like a total mature opposite to the fortune teller, where it's just like, oh, Katara might have feelings for Aang. Aang, this is probably going to happen down the line. It's like, yeah, we know. We didn't need a whole episode devoted to it at that point, you know? Mm-hmm. But, and here it's like, oh, here's like a healthy emotional response and mature response from people dealing with very complex feelings of abandonment and like wanting to be happy together.
And she actually kisses him at the end of this, right?
On the cheek. She does that a couple times. I had forgotten how, like, that was a normal thing that happened between them.
Yeah.
Which I like, you know? It's just, it didn't even need to, like, lean into, like, a romance thing there. It's just, like, a sign of affection that she has for him.
Is a little more common sometimes outside the United States, on the cheek, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a very predominantly Mexican family, and like it's just custom to kiss relatives on the cheek when you see them after a long period of time.
But you
like
can't.
That's normal.
You can't.
Not so much now, but
yeah. But you can't do that here because you might be considered a gay.
Oh, okay.
That's right. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
This is the most insecure country on the planet.
Yeah, there's not even an argument against that. That's just a fact at this point.
Yeah. The British Empire is a close second.
Mm.
But they hide behind their fancy bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have a spot of tea with the Queen and discuss war crimes across
tea and crumpets abroad in the morning. Across the pond. Fucking British.
Double do, Paddington Bear. We also sneak whiskey into our tea and discuss the variety of imperialism we still try to enact across the globe.
That's our great divide. Where we're like the disheveled, like, crappy-looking fuck-ups, and then they're the fancy pantses, but deep down, we're more alike than different in the committing of war crimes.
God, I love this country.
Yeah.
Can't even joke like that anymore without going into like a minor depression.
Yeah. It's like, I hope we get to a point where I can be like, well, we got on a good track after all that horrible shit.
Yeah, I just want to make America jokes and have like sparklers on the 4th of July. And now I was like, oh yeah, we did 4th of July this year. Like, people, we had that day, so we didn't just like erase it from the calendar. That's weird. Like, I feel like we shouldn't have had it like at all. But hey,
I want a mag hat.
No.
Not a MAGA hat.
No, I know. I got it.
You make America great. Because it's not. It never has been.
You have to have it like in blue or some shit, though. It has to be the opposite of red.
I know. It's the worst thing about Trump. This isn't true. But
yeah, I know. It's like,
that really, really sucks is he's fucked up red hats. Especially if you live in Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia, where the Philadelphia Phillies play. So you're constantly seeing red hats, and you're like, oh, what the fuck? And you're like, oh, it's just a Phillies hat.
Yeah, I'm not a hat guy, but I'll never wear a red one now.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have to be careful about that.
Yeah. This was a good episode. Maybe the most inconvenient run of episodes as a whole so far on these recordings.
And then also very disparate thoughts barely tied together.
Yeah. This is, for some reason, the longest we've recorded on any of these so far. So I'm going to do my best to whittle it down to the least amount of time you'll have to listen to. Unless you're on the Patreon. Sure. And then I'll make sure you listen to all this wonderful nonsense.
I'm pretty sure there's a chunk at the very, very beginning that is worth cutting at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Considering how the episode didn't go the way I was expecting it to go.
Yeah, no, it was more fun to talk about than I expected.
Didn't pick a fight. And didn't pick a fight with Diego, and he brought up the Alien films. So I showed tremendous restraint.
Yeah, there's like 3 great or good episodes in this for me, and then 2 that I'll still sit through them because I love this show with all my heart, but like I would never seek out, like I would seek out like The Storm and the Blue Spirit if I was in the mood for them, you know, or even The Great Divide because I like the weird monster in that and like how they fought it.
I would say The Fortune Teller is entirely worth skipping.
Sorry, Dave Filoni.
Yeah,
King of Star Wars now.
I don't think there's anything in that is of value later.
Not entirely. I like them fighting a volcano. There you go.
I guess. At least The Great Divide mentions Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, there you go. I like some of the jokes in that, and I recognize that they're very gender like stupid.
It's so weird. This is the exact same season that had the Warriors of Kyoshi.
Yeah, no, it does not feel like the same thing at all.
It's like the complete opposite.
Yeah.
It's like that episode like got so much right, and it's like the fucking 4th episode. It's just wild, and then it's like this feels like an episode you would get at the start of a series, and you're like, oh, they haven't really figured out what they are yet. But
this is only 10 episodes after that.
I know.
That's weird. Wow. All right, well, definitely the most uneven so far. But next time we'll be talking about the 5 episodes: The Deserter, The Northern Air Temple, The Waterbending Master, and Siege of the North Part 1 and 2. And really, The Waterbending Master could just be like Siege of the North Part 0. But
and then that'll wrap up Book 1 of
Water.
Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Yeah, 4 episodes to cover an entire season, and I think we've done a pretty good job.
We've done a good job. I would like to say the Wikipedia page for Season 1 mentions that Book 1 Water has been adapted into the live-action film The Last Airbender, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and released in 2010. The film was universally panned. They felt the need to mention that.
Well, I got nothing on that. We'll definitely talk about that movie.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to it.
There's probably some good that no one's talked about in there. Like, I really haven't seen it in, oh my God, 10 years at this point. It's been 10 years since that movie came out.
Yeah.
Where has the time gone?
I think there's no. As far as I can remember, there is nothing good in it. And what's shocking is that it isn't the worst film released in 2010.
What was worse?
Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah.
Which might be the worst film ever.
No, you're probably right. That one...
You remember in Inside Man, there's that scene where they think a hostage got shot, and like they do that that close up on Denzel Washington, and it's like it's almost like he's like floating like super fast over to the bank entrance.
Yeah, it's the Spike Lee shot.
Yeah, it's this great shot. That was me. Just shooting up from my seat and walking out of the theater when Johnny Depp did the Funkle Whackin' dance or whatever the fuck it was called.
I think it was called
in Wonderland.
Futter Whackin'.
The Futter Whackin', whatever. Fuck it. The moment that happened, like wordlessly, I was with people. I just wordlessly got up and just walked the fuck out.
These are supposed to be our family-friendly episodes.
Fuck them.
Well, Matt, thanks for joining me on this horrible nightmare of a day with some good episodes, some not great ones, and we'll be back next week talking about the episodes I brought up earlier. Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorOTN1 at Twitter.com. Also at a protest, probably.
Okay, I thought you were gonna put Twitch or no more Twitch.
It's just my Twitch thing's fucked up, so like I haven't been doing it lately.
Okay,
Although,
no problem.
knowing my luck, the moment these episodes are dropping, I will finally have it working again. So,
and you can find me at the Diego Crespo on Twitter. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon, where you can listen to this hour 50-minute recording uncut, mostly.
Yeah,
and
no, then, cut most of this, even for that. There's a lot to cut.
Yeah.
Cut
be fun.
Cut the 9/11 conspiracy talk.
I really want to keep that in, but you're probably right.
It would be funnier if you cut it, but leave me saying, cut it in the episode.
I hope I have like an intro for this already by this point. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.